retired Kobe Bryant was interviewed by a news outlet in Ben Simmons' native Australia. Ben Simmons at that time played for the Philadelphia 76ers. And Kobe said it was astonishing that the Sixers point guard had become a high impact player without a consistent shot. Kobe said Philadelphia 76ers star Ben Simmons will regret not developing a jump shot if that area of his game doesn't improve throughout his NBA career. And so I want you to hear it yourself. You'll have to listen closely because it's not a strong recording, and it's 1 minute long. So take this in, if you will.
How far can Ben Simmons go?
Well, he's got to get a jump shot. It's like, it sounds humorous and all that, but I'm dead ass serious. Yeah. You can't, because if not, he'll regret it. When his career is over, and you look at what he's doing now without that is astonishing. Now imagine you can shoot the ball. What does that open up for you? You don't want to retire. No, seriously, you don't want to retire and look back and go, man, if I just had a jump shot, what would I have done? You don't want that. You don't want that. So I don't care if you have to lock yourself in the gym 10 hours a day. If this kid gets a jump shot, it's a serious, serious problem. A serious, serious problem. To answer your question, the sky's the limit for him. He can be as good as he wants to be.
Got to set the alarm for 3:30.
You better set it for 1.
Ben Simmons is a force. He's been an all-star 3 times, a 2-time all-defensive first-team player, as well as a member of the All-NBA third team in 2020. Over the past few months, the video that I just showed, that interview has re-entered my thoughts a few times after I found out that Ben Simmons had been benched. His spot was taken by younger players. Younger players. Ben Simmons is only 26 years old. In that video, Kobe recommended that Simmons lock himself into the gym for 10 straight hours and take shots. I don't know if he did that. And either way, he still has time for a comeback. Each time that we meet on Zoom or in person, we are connected with people in various stages of their lifespans. Some of us are what can be called of retirement age, but I think we know that retirement age is a social construct. We've heard stories of people who died shortly after retirement. We also know about people who truly began to grow when they came to this point. The number of remaining years does not define aliveness. Of course, we want to do all that we can to care for our bodies in terms of exercise, sleep, what we consume. Some people, of course, may have less control over their health than others. So it's good to know that not even healthiness has the final say over your aliveness, because you are not your body. When you come to the end of your days, what you don't want is to have regrets. The power of life, if we are open to it, can make us and remake us and keep remaking us. So if you're open to it, this moment can be the most prolific, the most abundant experience you've ever enjoyed. That's why I want to spotlight, but first, the spoiler is the key to aliveness is found in solidarity, and we'll get to that. Solidarity, particularly with those whose backs are against the wall, or those I referred to last Sunday as other people. Going back decades, whenever I would read a book, more times than not, my curiosity would lead me to write the author. So I have written to authors of books and conference speakers. And when I was trying to navigate the world of evangelicalism, I rarely got responses, but occasionally I would hear back. Before the age of email, I wrote letters to people like James Dobson of Focus on the Family, and megachurch pastor Greg Laurie and Jerry Falwell, and quite a few others. Later, I started emailing people. I remember I had a protracted exchange with Dinesh D'Souza, who, according to his Wikipedia page now, says he's an Indian American right-wing political commentator, author, filmmaker, and conspiracy theorist. And that was back in the 1990s, long before he became a vocal supporter of the Tea Party and later MAGA. What I was trying to sort out was how they could be such public promoters of Jesus, but at the same time, they never addressed the issues that affected people in my community. To me, they took umbrage over everything but the main things. And yet to people around me at the time, these people were heroes, even though I was unaware of a single heroic thing they had done. My circle at that time found a way to ignore the real heroes, everyday people living among us, people who found the secret to being fully alive, including famous ones like Nelson Mandela, Dolores Huerta, who created the phrase, "Si se puede," yes, we can. She's been beaten often, arrested 22 times, most recently in 2019 at the age of 89. We ignored Marsha Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, heroes of the Stonewall Uprising. Real heroes were sometimes getting killed. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Patrice Lumumba, Oscar Romero, Fred Hampton, Salvadoran refugees. Heroes around the world were killed, some with the sanction of the FBI or the CIA. And back in the 90s, whenever I would attend a conference, I would fill out the survey at the end. For several years, I attended Jack Hayford's pastor's seminar in Van Nuys, California. The reason I started going is that when I was about 30 years old, there was a woman, a friend of his and Anna's, who moved to Santa Barbara and attended my church, and she offered to cover the expenses of my visit to the seminar. After each year's conference, they passed out forms and pencils to complete an evaluation. And each year I asked why there were never any African-American presenters. Here we were, some 2,000 pastors for a 3-day event in one of the world's biggest metropolitan regions, and every speaker for every session every year was white. And after doing this for about 5 years, I recall opening the mailer for the next conference and seeing a picture of their first African-American guest. It was my mentor, Bishop Charles Blake. I don't have any idea if I had anything to do with that development, but in the succeeding years, there were special guests who were Latino, Hispanic, Asian, and eventually female. Sometime later, and this was after I had given up on the prospects of fitting in with evangelicals and Pentecostals, I began to write other authors, including ex-evangelicals. One of them was Brian McLaren, who would later write the foreword to my book. Yet even Brian, in my view, people like Brian have become too comfortable with their community of former evangelicals. Brian needs to get a jump shot. Many people who left the cultures of fundamentalism, dogmatism, and conservatism now see themselves as political progressives and religious liberals. And they need to get a jump shot. Some of them even see themselves as radicals. And compared to what they used to be, whether they were Baptist, Episcopalian, Roman Catholic, Latter-day Saints, Calvary Chapel, Vineyard, Assemblies of God, Foursquare, or something else, compared to what they used to be, they might honestly feel that they are now radical. Right now, I ask you to pause, breathe, acknowledge and accept current realities, even those you don't approve of, because this is where we begin. I don't think you are radical when you still endorse the illusion of meritocracy and you think that the death economy we call capitalism is functional and that the state has a right to kill people or to control women's bodies. You are not radical if you are impressed by the perceived progress that's been experienced, but you cannot feel the relentless agony of those who pay the cost for that progress. You are not radical until you understand that activism is the rent you pay to live on the planet. Voting might just be one small piece. Only you will know what the pieces are, the other pieces are for you. And if you are not living a radical life, you have not yet begun to follow the teachings of Jesus, even if you love singing or preaching about Jesus. Today, we read from Mark's gospel the story of a rich man who wanted eternal life, what we might see as boundless life. He asked Jesus about life without limits. Jesus responded by inviting the man to follow him. But in order to follow Jesus, he needed to do something radical. Jesus told him, "You're missing one thing." No, it wasn't a jump shot. He's saying, "You're missing one thing. Go and sell everything you have and give to the poor. Then you'll have treasure in heaven, and come and follow me." You're missing one thing. In other words, you have all the ingredients except the one that will give you life. Jesus was not trying to impoverish this man, to deprive him, to make him destitute. No, Jesus was an advocate for the poor. It would not suit his divine agenda to create another poor man. Jesus was giving this rich man a chance to escape death. Forsaking his material-based existence would be a huge sacrifice, but it could change his life. It could give him life. Jesus was urging this man to lock himself in the gym for 10 hours. Look, for those who have more than everything that they need, the missing ingredient is not more stuff. This man was smothering in stuff, but Jesus loved him enough to tell him the truth. This man needed a new community. The new community he needed was not comprised of the rich and respected. His wealthy friends were the grave that kept him from being alive. If he entered in new relationships with those who struggled to survive, he would find truth, because poor people are always lied on. Societies always lie about the underclass to make their oppressors feel comfortable, but their comfort is their death. Poor people are not only lied about, they are lied to. And when they believe those lies, they are dead as well. This rich man, by approaching Jesus, was poised to become a revelation of truth to his community. He needed new friends. Jesus was showing him the way out of loneliness, out of the greed system that is steeped in competitiveness, duplicity, and suspicion. Jesus welcomed him to the company of the blessed. Selling his properties and giving them away would do far more than help the less fortunate. He would become one with them. It would do more than bring him down. It would lift them up. And he, being one of them, would become one with them, and thereby everyone would be uplifted. And finally, he would reprove his rich community, the society of the dead. He would help to fracture the solidarity of the rich, because rich people need to be saved. Rich people need to open themselves to the rest of their lives. So this rich person went away sorrowful when Jesus was offering him the world. And when a rich person, even if they've done all the right things, doesn't do the one thing that matters most, when they need a jump shot, it costs everybody. All right, Emily, help us out here.
All right. Well, thank you for that message. That was really great. I think what I'll do to facilitate this conversation is I'll start by reading a few quotes that stood out to me. Sorry, I might have misquoted by a word or two because I was trying to write them as you spoke. And then also some of my own reflections, questions for you, and then open it up to everyone else. So some of the things that stood out to me. The number of remaining years does not define aliveness. Not even healthiness has the final say over aliveness. If you are not living a radical life, you have not yet begun to follow the teachings of Jesus. I don't think you're radical when you still endorse the illusion of meritocracy. And then the concept that aliveness is found in solidarity. I think something that was really powerful about this message for me was I have heard this story many times, but I've always thought about it through the lens of the individual level of the shift that this man would undergo if he sold all his belongings. You know, I've always thought, oh, this guy sold all his stuff, he wouldn't have any more stuff. And that was about the end of my imagination. And I think taking this story and shifting the perspective of the passage away from the individualist lens and thinking about how selling his properties would have shifted his social circle, changed his place in society, I think that is a really powerful way to look at it. And let's see, a broad question that you can answer or the rest of those listening can answer. Something that was stirring in my mind while you spoke was thinking about imagining ways to find true community with others who aren't from our social spheres. I think that a lot of my peers who are trying to turn their lives to be more radical, myself included, we often find ways to support or to donate to people in need, people that we feel, need it. We find ways to serve them in our careers, but I think it's pretty rare for us to really find genuine friendships, genuine alliances. And I think that's something that evangelicals or Christians searching for a new way of relating, that's a hard shift for people to make. So I don't know if anyone has thoughts on that, whether it be you, Pastor, or anybody else.
Well, the floor is open, but as you were talking, Emily, I thought about when we left our time together last Sunday, and I was telling Roy that I went through my list of Facebook friends because I was raising money, and I went through my list of friends, and as I scrolled, I noticed that I had poor friends. I mean, I didn't feel comfortable even approaching most of them because, we're talking 90% of 5,000 people are either poor or they're, retired and they're on fixed incomes and that kind of thing. And Roy urged me, he said, well, still just put it out there. So I'm doing that, but it was something of an eye opener for me to realize that the people that are in my life they make me rich in a whole different way. I just have so much wealth, and I would hate to have to give this up. But anybody else?
And I'll also note that I think that this applies to any people group. I think, whether it's I feel like the step of wanting to be an ally to, queer folks, or wanting to stand up against any sort of hate against a racial or ethnic group. But going past putting money towards things, going past reading about things, and going towards being in community.
I see Lisa has her hand up.
So I've been sharing some thoughts with somebody who's struggling and has been having a really rough time. And they tell me how humiliated they are to have to ask for help and for no one to help them. And I told them they're just going through a lot of not having what they need, and people being cruel to them and telling them how worthless they are. And I told them that you're not the one who should feel humiliated. You should not be ashamed. The people that have and choose not to bless you and help you, those are the people who should be humiliated. So I encouraged them to not look at society, because it was all about society. Oh, this person has a house, they have retirement, they're getting ready for, they've got all the things they have, and I said, and they still choose not to help you when they know they could, they should be ashamed of themselves. And that's what I was telling. I said, you have nothing to be ashamed of. You are the blessing. And I didn't get this far, but I should have told them this too, is like, you are a blessing to people. You are allowing them to do something very godly, and they are choosing not to do it. So, and somebody put the quote that you did that I wrote down. I was so excited. Activism is the rent you pay to stay on the planet. And like, you people that are not helping this person are not paying your rent. You are squatters. Wow. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Wow.
Sorry, you go. I was about to say, I see some more hands, but that's what you do.
No, I was just saying, wow.
I had like a thought of this, and they have all these challenges on the internet and everything. This is like the Jesus challenge to this guy. You know what? Here we go. I'm not telling, and here's the problem I've found. The poor follow this better than the rich. That's why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. They're not understanding. It's a balancing act. You know what? Be equal with your fellow man. When you're equal with your fellow man, you know what? Now you can understand. You can have empathy, But when you have all these things and they don't, there's going to be animosity. There might be judgment, whatever that may be. It's not so much about go be poor and don't have anything, but let's keep equal so everybody has something, so that the other person doesn't have to suffer.
I was thinking what you said, Pastor, about Brian McLaren and radicals. The Brian McLaren and the radicals that kind of silo themselves, and I think about the revolutionary educator Paulo Freire, and he says you can switch from one fundamentalism to another fundamentalism because it's rooted in the same fatalistic outcome, meaning that like you have the same you want the same determinant truth, you want like facts, and like it is what it is, right versus right and wrong, it's objective. And he says the way that we got to do that is to switch to the subjective, the lived experience. And I see what has happened with folks like that is they haven't truly grieved. There's still a haunting that is over them, a depth of their humanity that they haven't reached down to because of that comfort that you talked about, which is my second favorite point of your message today, that idea of the middle class comfort, if you will. The system teaches us to be in that comfortable place, and that is part of the death cycle, and the more that we sit in that system, the more that we kind of start to find our lack of purpose, so lack of vitality, the lack of community, the lack of, we start to get, just apathetic, and I think that's pretty contradictory to like this ability of believing that the world